Hello, everyone. Welcome back and welcome to the Superhero Finder podcast. As always, I'm your host, Matt Wilson, and I'm scouring the cosmos. Look, the space behind me if you're watching on video, technology. And I'm looking for people really, really pleased and grateful to be able to share this space with people who are amazing or interesting or confident or not confident, but have stories to tell. And this is about us being able to learn from each other, use each other's strength, and whether you're here to take something away for yourself or whether you're the kind of person to just want to take something away that you can help somebody else, I'm sure there's going to be something for you. So I'm delighted to be in the room today with Harmony Woodington. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful, thank you. It's Friday, which is always a good thing.
Very true. The weekend is happening and it's still summer weather here, so I'm happy. I'll be on the beach this weekend.
Nice, nice. So talk about the beach. Where are you?
I'm in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and it's still summer here.
It's still summer. Well, I'm looking outside and we've still got sunshine. So not doing
Nice.
bad, which is unusual for us over here in the UK.
I love it.
So, Harmony, for anyone that doesn't know about yourself, would you just like to introduce who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. For all of you guys who don't know me, because you're going to be listening to me more than likely on the other side of the pond, I am actually a Welsh dragon, just so you guys know. My dad was born in Newport, Wales. I am quite the mix of English, Irish, Scottish, and Welsh. So the inner turmoil is very real. And I am a clinical hypnotherapist and also an energy healer, and I go under the title of executive coach. Um, I have always organically by nature called leaders and people that find themselves to be outliers and don't find themselves fitting into their family, their culture, and really don't want to be in a place where they're having everything dictated to them. And most of the people that I work with find themselves like knowing that they don't want to be in the matrix that they're in, but they don't know how to dismantle it and create something for themselves. And so that is essentially the work that I do, is really helping people to dismantle the matrix and create a life that is in service of themselves and ultimately in service of Mother Earth and every life treading on it.
I love that because I can't say I know anything about energy healing, and I love when we take conversations back to Mother Earth, and it's really nice to kind of go back to these roots of nature and looking at the planet and where we are and what we're doing to it and things like that. But I am wondering, were you in that position? Were you kind of stuck in a rut? What's motivated you to do this for other people?
I most definitely came from a very tumultuous, dysfunctional background, childhood. And being that post Second World War, Wales was a very depressed state. I think just in general, Britain was very heavily affected by the war. A lot of the parents that came home that had to fight had PTSD and they really struggled. And the kids, as a result, grew up with these parents that were still dealing with these lingering emotions in a time when PTSD and everything was not acknowledged and treated. And so every single one of the 6 children that my grandparents had have serious mental health issues. And my grandfather did everything that he could to try to cope with humor, but obviously it doesn't fix the dysfunction. So my father struggled with depression and suicidal tendencies, and he has made multiple attempts on his life. He's still with us today, but I basically had a ghost of a father because he was so depressed. He just didn't know how to be present for his children. And to make it even more fun, my mother, her family is going back to Scotland, and she's actually from a satanic cult. So that's like super
Wow.
deep. You didn't see that coming, did you?
I did not see that one coming, no.
Yeah. So she spent the first 17 years of her life having a day life and a night life. And she was always tired and she didn't know why. And the reason for that is because the trauma that you experience, if it's traumatic enough, the mind will take it and store it. And then you don't remember it for the safety of your mind. So you don't snap. So she didn't actually remember what she went through until she went to marriage counseling with my dad, and the psychologist surfaced the trauma, but he didn't know what to do with it. So then all of a sudden, my mother just completely shut down. And at 11 years old, I was in a place where I was trying to help my mother to deal with the trauma to get her back. And so I ended up figuring out of my own volition how to help her to actually access the parts that were holding the trauma, process the trauma, and integrate the parts back into the whole of her mind. And when I think about what I did at like 11, 12 years old, I'm like, I don't even know how, but I was innovating out of desperation because I wanted my mom back. Now, she was so severely split that I wasn't able to successfully do so. It would have taken a lot of work and a lot of time, and I wouldn't have had a life. But I did learn a lot. And it obviously, as a result of the dysfunction and trying to help my dad with his depression and my mother with her multiple personality disorder, which now they call dissociative disorder.
Yeah.
It really like put me in that place where like I wanted to help others. And then I've always had this innate like just ability to make people feel safe. And so people have been confiding things in me since I was like 5. So obviously hint hint, right? And then when I got older and then had to do my own work as a result of my own experiences, I ended up actually going outside of the traditional allopathic model because a lot of what I was dealing with was deep spiritual stuff. And I was also, to add to the cornucopia, raised Mormon. So that just makes it even more fun. So,
That does.
yeah, my dad was raised Catholic and then converted to Mormon when he was like 10. So, like, the religious background and dogma and dysfunction was so real in my family. So, like, the allopathic model doesn't really honor that. They really kind of treat the organ of the brain and what is going on from a neurological perspective.
Yeah.
And then they kind of disregard everything else. And so I wasn't able to get the support that I needed. And it was in walking on a spiritual path that I discovered a clinical hypnotherapist. And so she ended up actually supporting me. And then I ended up diving into the spiritual world as well, because I ended up discovering, as I was working with a client that I had in hypnosis, that she had a ball of energy in her solar plexus that I felt in my own body. And it was so powerful. I didn't know how to help her move it. And so I was like, okay, there's clearly another puzzle piece. So I ended up certifying in multiple energy healing modalities. And what I ended up ultimately realizing is that if you update your mental operating system, if you change a program, and there is trauma from something that is in your physical body, you're still going to manifest physical dis-ease because it's not released and fully resolved. If you shift and release energy, but you still have programs that are creating what created the trapped energy, you're just going to go make a mess again and create more trapped energy. So it's got to be holistic, right? And I think that I was leading myself, the universe was leading me to what I needed to know and learn to be able to not just create holistic resolution for myself, but for my clients. So what I tell them, I teach them is how to speak the language of the mind and body. And I got resolution myself first, and then utilized what I learned to create a program to walk my clients through the path of holistic resolution. And what's really beautiful about it is, I'm not going to lie, I'm still constantly healing and expanding through working with my clients. I'm just in a quantum leap scenario because I'm living, eating, and breathing it all the time. So I feel very, very blessed because we both benefit from the work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, I found myself recently doing a lot of work so we met first on TikTok, didn't we? And I found myself, since going live on TikTok, kind of naturally growing this mental health based safe space community, which it's really magnified the fact that a little bit of what you just said there about, I've just finished going through therapy myself today. In fact, today was the last session of my therapy. And what I've realized is, in conjunction with the therapy, actually helping other people navigate things helps me also heal. It helps me go through that. And that's why sometimes when I'm having these conversations, or I've had a a little bit of a step back week this week, it's because actually that can be super tough. That could be twice as tough as just holding a conversation, can't it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's really beautiful. And I have so much respect for you just for saying yes and investing in yourself, because there are a phenomenal amount of people out there that are too terrified of the monster in the closet and they're not willing to do the work. And I want to be really clear to everybody who's listening to this. There is no monster in the closet. You've created it. There is no monster in the closet, especially when you do the work with somebody like me, because I do not make my clients relive the trauma. I don't. That's not a thing. You don't need to sit down and access the trauma and relive it and cry and be a hot mess. That's not how it actually works. And that's not how you get resolution. Okay. The thing that I am concerned with when I do the work with my clients is what is the residual that has been left and is lingering, that is incongruent with what is in your highest good right now that needs to be released and resolved. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Beautiful. So what is usually left is programming that's not serving you. Something like, I'm not enough. The world is out to get me. I can't trust anybody. The world's not safe. Everybody's out to take care of themselves and screw everybody else. Do those programs sound familiar? Right? So when you learn how to access those and update them so that you can function in the world from a place of love, and you don't have things that are blocking you from investing in yourself and being able to step up and say yes to whatever inspiration comes your way, because there's nothing lacking anymore. You know you're enough. You know you're amazing. And you know that the right people are going to show up and support you. And the people who don't like what you're doing and are triggered, you can just say you're welcome to them and keep going. Right? We don't need to be concerned about the naysayers. What do we say to the trolls? Thanks for feeding the algorithm. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So the naysayers are going to have their place. And in all reality, when you look at the people that we're triggering that get upset about us being outliers and doing the work and saying something different, the reason they're triggered is because you're taking them out of their sheeple mentality and making them question their reality, and it's upsetting. Right? And when you think about it from that perspective, all you need to do is say you're welcome, because nobody should be a sheeple. We shouldn't be letting the powers that be control our actions and our thoughts at all. We shouldn't. So you stepping up and doing the work is really, really beautiful. And I celebrate you and have respect for you for the fact that you are investing in yourself.
Thank you. You know, it's really funny, isn't it? Because when you said about that almost the survival mechanism, so that mechanism when you talked about your mum and kind of like the day and the night life, and just coming back to what we were saying then about doing the work, I've just come across that some of the things that I've been through, some of the things that challenged me, or some of the things that have been, you know, I might have carried forward trauma from it, because we know the trauma isn't the event, it's how it's carried afterwards, isn't it? It's not the event itself inherently. That I realized that when you talk about that separation and that kind of defense, that when I remembered some of those things, it was somebody else that was experiencing them, not me.
Got it.
So I felt the emotions for the person going through it, but I couldn't identify that actually it was me. There was something blocking that, and I found that really interesting, because that's been big, because then I've been able to, you know, write a few of these experiences down, use it for good, use it in some of my workshops, kind of put it out there, you know, as material to let people know that there are other people that are going through some of these things like you, or there are people that will stand up and they will talk about it and they will create these spaces. But I just thought it really interesting how one of the first things you said was this kind of survival mechanism. It hides, like the mind just hides some of this stuff so that you don't have to deal with it there and then. It's just incredible what challenges the mind can throw, but it's also incredible what it actually does as well, what the brain does and how it can protect you.
The mind is a very powerful mental operating system that is just like your computer or your phone.
Yeah.
And when we understand the language of the mind and how it functions and how to properly update the programs and the apps and however it is that you want to term it, it changes everything. I take essentially how the mind works and simplify it for my clients and hand the power to them as a hypnotherapist to know how to constantly update their mental operating system just as easily as they do their phone. And when you learn how to do that, then you can create a Garden of Eden that you want to play in that is your mind. Most people are dissociating from their mind because they feel at odds or even in a battle with their own mind, which is why too many, unfortunately, take substances because they don't know how to work with their mind. Nobody's taught them. And the trauma that they're dealing with is just too much for them to bear. And the system has an agenda for that to be a thing. Otherwise, we would have been taught how to work with our minds. But I'm a person here who's saying that I understand how it works. I know the secrets, and I am not going to keep them to myself like most other hypnotherapists, because typically when you go and see a hypnotherapist, you say, I want to quit smoking. Cool. You get put in hypnosis, they do the thing, and then you're able to quit smoking. But what did they do to change your programming, right? And in my mind, that's unethical, because I'm keeping the power and you have to keep coming back to me and emptying your wallet in order to be able to change your state. So I don't practice in that way. I do hypnosis here and there with clients when I take them through my program. And the reason for that is because I want them to be able to access information that they can't with ease with their conscious mind. Like, do you know what state you were in before you came into this human body? No, but you can go into hypnosis and you can travel back in time and you can observe that. So
that's fascinating.
Right? Exactly. So hypnosis has a place to allow you to be able to access information that you wouldn't be able to access with ease with your conscious mind. And to be able to do that is really fun. However, changing somebody's state, I don't use hypnosis for that. I actually give you the ABC 123 to update your mental operating system. And then you work with me over a period of time to learn how to effectively do it, so that when you graduate from my program, you're confidently listening to your internal dialogue and then updating your programs and listening to your body and just confidently doing what you need to do.
Because I can think of plenty of things. So one of my many hats is a personal trainer, and I have been for a few years now. And it's, getting somebody to a solution. So helping somebody lose weight. So we look at something like Weight Watchers or Slimming World in the UK. They might work, like you say, get them to a goal, stop smoking, but you don't fully understand why. It's masked behind a kind of point system, something to break it down for people. So then you end up going back to it, because when it stops working and you stop doing it, you don't know how it works. Like you said, so I agree. I completely sit in the same place as you, because what's the point in? It's almost like going to a doctor and them just giving you a bottle of unlabeled pills and just going, take them. Now, arguably, that's how medicine was done a long time ago. But, things have changed since then. And actually educating people is ultimately going to be the way that we change. Well, it has a bigger impact, doesn't it, on the change? Because then if somebody's aware of what's working and why it's working, then not only can they move forward a bit more confidently and a bit more empowered by that, but also you can then start to help other people as well. So people, that kind of message, that kind of whatever that knowledge is, does stretch further than just that one person, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I love what you brought up about the training and the fitness aspect, because I'm a big gym rat. Like cool. I love going to the gym on the regular. And I was just talking to a girlfriend about that yesterday, and I was telling her that being in my 40s, I just turned 44. Being in my 40s training is very different than it was when I was in my 20s, because really from my late 20s up until a few months ago, I was solely training at home doing HIIT workouts. And I was in very good shape doing that, because, HIIT workouts will annihilate anybody who goes to the gym on the regular, because it's a very different workout, right?
Yes.
It will destroy you. It's great for cardio and strength for anybody that wants to like 2-for-1 it's really, you'll find if you get on a treadmill or you have to do something cardio, if you're doing HIIT workouts on the regular, you'll be surprised at how good your cardio is.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's really, really beautiful is that when you think about Weight Watchers or one of those programs, you're totally right. It's not a lifestyle change. It's not empowering you to learn how to work with your own body to optimize it. And what your needs are, being where you live in the UK versus where I am in North America, because I've been here my whole life. The foods that we eat and what we have access to, our dietary needs, the bacteria we're exposed to, our age, our sex, everything plays, and then our DNA and our epigenetics and all of that plays a role in creating a very unique individual that has very specific needs,
Yeah.
right? And there isn't really anybody practitioner wise on the planet that actually takes the individual and allows for them to really hone into those things, other than me, of course. Because what I actually do is I teach my clients to self-communicate. So they use kinesiological testing to actually communicate to their own body using food and nutrition charts. And then they ask their body, what foods does my body want? And they do it every season change, every solstice and equinox. They go through and actually do a whole, like a system check. So they'll check all of the organs and systems in their body. They'll even check their chakras and their energy body and everything going on to make sure everything is good to go. And then they communicate on what foods and nutrition and supplements their body's asking for, because not only do we want to eat local and in season, but every single time the season changes, our body's needs change as well. And then as we're aging, it changes. So we need to be self-communicating on the regular. And then this is something you're going to get a kick out of. When you're in the gym, I'll tell you what I do. Instead of using a timer in between my sets, I self-communicate to ask my body when it's ready to do the next set.
And that will differ every single time.
Exactly. I mean, because if I'm on day 3 of my flow and I'm like, obviously my body is doing its thing and I go to do a workout, I'm going to be drained. I might be able to show up and do the workout, but I'm not going to have the strength that I usually do.
Yeah.
And I need to honor that. So if I'm in a workout and I know I'm flowing and I've been through 2 days of extreme pain and it's been absolutely horrible, but I'm showing up because I'm determined and I'm focused and I'm dedicated. Yeah. It might take, like a minute and a half in between sets as opposed to 30 seconds or whatever. And then there's another day where I'm like, go, go, go. I'm supersetting it. Let's do this. Right.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful to honor that.
It is. And that's another thing that is really lacking within the fitness industry. Not did I expect us to get into fitness at all, but when you're talking about those cycles, the flow, and the amount of people. So I predominantly work with women. I just have this thing. That's why I attract, right? So for no other reason that I don't advertise that, but we just get a really good bond. And actually, the amount of times I've had the conversation of, due to the way that the hormones are working in your body, there are going to be weeks that you crave something like carbohydrates, but your body's not actually set up to be able to take them that well. So it's almost like it's tempting you, but you shouldn't really do it. But it's understanding that. It's also understanding that there'll be a week you feel like Superwoman. There'll also be a week where you feel like absolute pants. So once you understand that, and like you say, you listen to your body and how much you need to rest, then you can truly get the most out of yourself on each day and not push yourself necessarily to hit something that's prescribed. And the reason I say prescribed is because I'm getting a feeling when we're talking about this that some people like rules and structure. It's not listening to them, it's listening to somebody else and going by somebody else's thoughts.
Yeah.
So we're talking, fitness plans, diets with point systems, religion, other things as well. I wanted to actually ask you whether you still practice Mormonism or whether you were still, whether that's something you still do.
I am more of the standpoint of understanding that I am a divine being having a human existence, and in the universe, once upon a time, I got bored and I decided to come and play in this matrix and create this existence for myself. And all of the challenges, tripwires, refining fires, traumas, pain, everything
Yeah.
that I've experienced, so that I could learn lessons to become who I am today and live my soul's purpose, which is to flood this earth with love. So there isn't a dude in the sky that's dictating my agenda and my path in this life.
I wonder how many times you've been asked that question based on that very articulate answer.
Yeah, I definitely I mean, typically when I do interviews and stuff, I'll spend like I've got my life story and I've got like the 5-minute version and then I've got like the 20-minute version. It just depends on how long the podcast is.
Yeah.
So
whether it's condensed or not.
I've done enough of these interviews, that I'm pretty well practiced when it comes to it. So usually I do the whole thing and come full circle so that at the end of it, everyone's understanding that I've let go of the dogma of Christianity and, all of the shame and guilt and everything that is associated with it. The self that I was when I was in that state was extremely insecure and self-loathing and lacking. And I think one of the biggest aha moments, there's two of them I think that were really big for me when I was on the healing path. And one was that everything is happening for me, not to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one was that I'm in the driver's seat. We're raised with this idea that God is in the driver's seat on the bus and you're in the back of the bus and you don't get to control anything and you just have to take and deal with and be grateful for whatever is handed to you, right? Because he always has a greater purpose and whatever. Like, okay, cool. And then when I actually had a moment and realized that it wasn't a bus, it's a Bugatti Veyron. Can we be clear on the fact that I wouldn't be sitting in a public bus? Like, are you kidding me right now? It's a $3 million Bugatti Veyron, okay? And I'm in the driver's seat. When I had that moment, I took my hands and put them on a steering wheel and I took control of my life. And now I own what I create. I own what comes into my world because I know it's my power that is vibrating to the universe and the universe is matching what I am vibrating. So everything that is coming to me, I create.
Yes.
And if I don't like it, all I have to do is change my vibration and something different will come. So I know at all times I'm the one who's in control of this. And it creates beautiful accountability because what do people do but use God or the universe as a scapegoat when things aren't right? When in all reality, it's you. And we need to own what we're creating that we don't like and do the work to shift it so that we can get what we do like.
And that is exactly why I asked the question, because going back to that idea of having that structure, some people's comfort is in being able to put down something to the fact that God has a higher purpose, or it might be, okay, well, if I live by these rules, then I'm a good person. So that then gives them a good identity. But it also has the effect that actually, if that isn't truly for you, maybe you're brought up in a family where that's kind of the way you've been brought up, but it's not for you, you'd have that feeling inside where there's the self-loathing, there's the, I suppose, chastising of yourself as well, because that's not actually where you want to be. I think I love the idea of religion. I've got several friends in many different religions, and I'll always kind of embrace that, where I can, and I understand why people kind of do that, and I think it's beautiful in its own ways. But I also think that it's good for people to be able to recognize, and this goes with anything really, recognize when something is for them and when it is. The bits that I don't like about it is when it is forced on, or because again we come back to doing something without education, or why, or doing something against your will, ultimately, isn't it? With some of it, and I can talk particularly strongly about Mormonism because we actually have family members who were Mormons and have now entered relationships, same-sex relationships, which was an interesting part. So yeah, everyone's colourful lives, and been able to express themselves more, and I've seen a massive character shift in that person since being able to do so.
That's really beautiful. Have you ever been to Kilkenny, Ireland?
No, I've never been to Ireland,
Okay, you need to hop over there. It's literally a hop, skip, and a jump for you. I'm so jealous. Um, if you go to Kilkenny, Ireland, and keep this in mind when you go, it's not far away from Dublin. It's a beautiful, beautiful village that has a phenomenal amount of history. And like York, it's a beautiful example of when the Normans came in and created walls around the village and put a big, huge gate on it. And they told the story that we're going to make you safe, because in the times, 1,000 years ago, everybody was, constantly being invaded, or they were killing each other. And it was just anarchy. They didn't have law and order. And so they came in and brought that. And so when the gates were being closed every night, they were cheering because they felt safe, and they didn't realize they were being locked in. And then they taxed them, and they built a church, and they taxed them more, and they built a gorgeous castle on the hill. And when you go to Kilkenny, you'll see it up on the highest hill. There's a gorgeous castle, right? And then they started to control them. And a lot of the terms like, taxing the daylights out of us came from there. They actually taxed them so much, they bricked up their windows. So they didn't have windows anymore.
Wow.
And a hole in the wall came because they taxed their doors. And so they actually bricked up their door. So it became a hole in the wall, and it wasn't a doorway anymore. So they couldn't tax them. So
Survival.
it's really, and pub crawl is when they would get drunk and they would crawl from the hole in the wall to the hole in the wall.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing how a lot of the history of the things that we say that we don't think about come from these difficult times.
Yeah.
And particularly in the UK and in Ireland. So they have a place called the Black Abbey. Now, the Black Abbey was deliberately created to hypnotize the people so they could control them. And every aspect of it is done for that exact purpose. They have a stained glass window so that when the people were in there, the lights would shine through and create all these rainbows, and it would actually like scatter and confuse them and throw them into overload. They would have like choirs singing, and so they'd be overloaded with sound. There'd be a dude up high, and he'd be preaching at them. And with everything, the whole cornucopia, the way that you throw a person into hypnosis is to put them into fight or flight, right? You overload them, and then they retreat. So that was exactly how they designed this church, so that they could actually control them and then have them fulfill whatever agenda they wanted to. And I thought it was so powerful, because I was just learning hypnosis when I did this tour through 7 countries in Europe. But I discovered this on a walking tour, and I was like, holy crap, man, those people, the people who were really educated and wanted to control, they knew exactly what they were doing.
That's clever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's phenomenal when you truly understand how these religions and government and all these different things have been acting for thousands of years to subdue and control people. And they did it by saying, we're going to provide safety and structure. But what they were doing was caging them, right? So if you find yourself in a situation, in a matrix, in a religion, in a culture or whatever, where you are being told that you can't do things, there's something wrong with this picture. If you feel like a secondary citizen and you feel like you're doing things wrong and you're driven by guilt and shame, there's something wrong with this picture. Because there's nothing wrong with you. You are a beautiful, beautiful, powerful, divine being. And the only one who should be dictating what you're doing is you. And it should be governed by love, and it should be governed by what is in your highest good.
Have you ever thought running for president? See, that wouldn't work though, would it? Because the agenda would be against someone like you being in the hot seat.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Unfortunately, a lot of the people who end up at the top are just a talking head, and there's people behind them dictating what's what, right? And that's one of the reasons why I actually didn't become a clinical hypnotherapist, or a psychologist or a psychiatrist, because in that world, it's also a matrix. They go to school for 10 years to memorize textbooks, which basically forces them to diagnose and follow a protocol, which isn't honoring the unique individual that you are at all. No. And in the world that I live in, I have complete freedom to not diagnose and not treat with a protocol, but to treat you like the individual, powerful, divine being that you are, having a human existence, knowing that you're one of a kind, and being able to honor every aspect of the multifaceted, powerful being that you are. And nobody tells me what to do. And guess what? My clients all thrive under me. They all thrive and they own their power. And when they graduate working with me, they are owning the divine being they are. They are owning the God and goddess they are. They are separated from the human existence and not steeping in it in misery. They are confidently communicating with their mind and body. They are meeting their agenda. They're understanding why they're in this human life and what they're supposed to be doing in this life, and they're fulfilling the agenda. So at the end, they will have actually won the game, not lost it, which is powerful.
If I had a microphone, I'd be dropping it right now.
So many mic drop moments, right?
Absolutely. I'm going to have fun chopping this up into little sections for social media. I'll have like 100. So we are running short of time, which is incredible because this has gone super, super, super fast. And I'm pretty sure we could speak forever on this, which we may well do at some point. You know, we can come back to this, can't we? I do have one question.
Yep.
That I would like to ask. I ask all my guests. Okay. I love superheroes, which is why I'm the superhero finder. I just find it fascinating. I think there's a superhero for everyone. I think we can all take similarities from our past. I love the fact there's an origin story. There's a way of kind of channeling that power, and then we can do incredible things with it, right? With the right intention. If you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be? What would you use it for?
I would have the superpower to take people's free agency.
So what do you mean by the free agency?
So there's so many people on the planet that I talk to that aren't willing to do the work, that are afraid of doing the work, of healing. And there are so many times that I wish I could have taken their free agency and walked them through the path and then given them their free agency back and said, do you want to be back to being messed up? Did you want to go back there? Yeah. No? Okay, cool. So that's my biggest thing is just, I want to be able to help everybody, but unfortunately I have to give everyone their free agency to be unresolved if they want to. And it's frustrating because I know what it's like to be on the other side and how much better it is being expanded and self-loving and in my power and unapologetically living, not asking permission or forgiveness.
Yes. I'm glad you said that because we can't help everybody. If we could, we would. And actually, knowing and accepting those people that don't want to change or don't want to do the work allows us to spend more energy on the people who do. Potentially. But it is frustrating because you just want to help because you know, as you say, you know what's on the other side. You just want to just shake that person and go, look, this is what you could have.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Coming to peace with that and letting people be unresolved is very, very challenging. And I've learned how to discern the difference between the people that are in a victim mindset and on an expansion path. And I only spend time with people that are on the expansion path in every aspect of my life.
Wonderful.
So if you want to hang out with me, you better be on the expansion path, people. I'm just saying, just warning you.
Be on the expansion path. So if somebody did want to, you know, find out more or work with you or just be interested, where can they find you?
So my website is literally just under my name, harmonywoodington.com. You can also look me up on social media, which is just Harmony Woodington C.Ht. And I'll make sure that you've got all of my links for my social and stuff so they can go and click a link in the episode so that they can check me out because I'm literally saturating all the social media constantly. So I'm everywhere.
Everywhere, an all-seeing eye.
Exactly.
Harmony, it's been absolutely fantastic to catch up with you, to meet and to get to know a bit more about you. Because we met on TikTok, but I didn't look too deep into who you were. I just knew I could feel that there was going to be a good conversation in there. So thank you for that. Guys, thank you for watching / listening. Now, if you are just listening on audio, you can on Spotify and also on YouTube now watch these interviews and chats on video because some people are a visual person and it can be quite nice to get to know someone on video as well. So make sure that's available for you. You can see if you are watching a video, link above my head, which is patreon.com/thekindeststrongman. Now that allows you to be able to support this podcast growing and continuing. We've been going for 3 years now and I intend to keep on going. So if you want to have a look into any way that you can support it growing, then please do. And thank you for my patrons currently, Lucy and James, for supporting me and supporting me through this and allowing me to grow and develop this as well. And you can also see on that side, because it's mirrored, the Instagram link for myself, which is also the Kindest Strongman, and it's the same on TikTok as well. So that only leaves one thing for us both to say. And from myself and from Harmony, stay super.
Stay super.